The Unplayable Podcast is proudly presented by Qantas, the official podcast partner and the official airline partner of Cricket Australia. Once again this season, Qantas is proud to be flying Australia's cricketers as they take on the world. Hey everyone, welcome to the Unplayable Podcast. Day one of the SCG Test matches ended in a rather wet note, unfortunately. England finished at 3 for 211 after only 45 overs were possible on day one. A bit of rain in Sydney, who would have guessed it? But here to break down those 45 overs and a little bit of the stuff around the outside is myself, Josh Schonafinger, and Louis Cameron. Why don't we start with the rain, Lou, because that was obviously a disappointing end to the day. There were parts and times where it looked like we could be playing, we didn't end up playing, and all in all, it was a bit of confusion and disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, Sydney is a reason why this is the only ground that has the sponsors, the covers sponsored.
Yeah.
The big NRMA insurance logo all over those white sheets. I'm pretty sure nowhere else. I mean, to be fair, we actually just haven't seen that much rain.
Yeah, but money well spent, you'd have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. That is genius, yeah. But they might sponsor it at other grounds. I just haven't seen it because it hasn't really rained too much this series. So that's a tick so far. Yeah, it was a bit... We kind of have this conversation every year in Sydney, and every time it kind of rains, like what more could we kind of be doing to either get the game going or maybe entertain the more than 49,000 people who came today.
Massive crowd today.
Yeah, I didn't realise Sydney held that many people, but I think when the members come in and they get the standing room only area kind of activated, then they can really flood through and kind of come down to watch. I kind of feel like cricket doesn't do a great job of like, all right, there's no cricket on, like how are we entertaining those people? And I'm not saying like we need to go full Big Bash and whatever, but like could we have like a travelling circus troupe like on hand to, just something like, I'm joking, but like just something to entertain people.
Slip and slide on the outfield or something.
Well, that's right. Yeah, something fun like that. Like all the TV stations, right? They have all this kind of filler content ready, and like I think Channel 7 were doing their best. Or who they think will be playing the 2027 Ashes. Like this is all kind of stuff we talk about when we don't have any cricket to play, right? So could we be doing that from a ground perspective? I'm sure those conversations are happening.
Yeah, it was disappointing, but as you said, lots of members came in today. We heard on the coverage that members were lining up from 6 p.m. last night to make sure that they got in today. There was lots of pink around, even though it's not quite Jane McGrath Day yet, but if you do want to donate, of course, to that very worthy cause of the McGrath Foundation, head to pinktest.com.au. We began today with a really touching tribute to the first responders and those lost in the Bondi tragedy a few weeks ago. Some great shots of Ahmed Al-Ahmed, his arm in a sling, but saluting to the crowd and getting to shake the hands of all the players. That was a really nice way to start the day. England won the toss and chose to bat, even though Australia went heavy with the quicks again, Lou.
That's right. The first time in 137 years Australia haven't played a spinner at the SCG. That's kind of beggars belief, really, that it's been that long. You would have thought that, it might have rained a bit in the lead into a test in the 40s, 50s or 60s, and they went all seam, or there was just a transition period when there was no good spinner to kind of pick, and we were trawling through the archives, old scorecards, trying to figure out if JJ Ferris was a seamer or
Tibby Cotter.
Exactly, yeah. What did George McShane bowl? You can't even compare the game. To what it is, like what the game we're playing now compared to what they were playing back then. I'm sure it was great, but it's not the same sport as what we're doing now. You look at the scorecards. Like I think Australia in that first innings in the 1887-88 Sydney Test, England made 130 off 100 overs. Charles Terra Turner just bowled like 50 overs straight, and, took 5 wickets, but it was like they only used 3 bowlers. I think the third bowler bowled 4.4 overs or something. Like it's so it's a long time ago, different game, and you wonder whether they would have made the same decision if Nathan Lyon was available for this game. That's a hypothetical we'll kind of never know the answer to, but Dan Vittoria was sitting up here in the press conference room where we are now, and just kind of said, well, the pace has been the winning formula here, and it seemed like the selection was more based around pace taking wickets as opposed to them being worried about a really green wicket and picking the extra batter. Because obviously it's Bo Webster in the team at 8, not Jai Richardson in that equivalent spot. So, but it did look like So I don't know if they've misread the pitch completely, but it does look like a good batting wicket.
Yeah, you know how when something happens, 15 years ago for the first time, you see those graphics on social media like, oh, Barack Obama was president, all those sorts of things. You can't really go all the way back to 1888.
I mean, New South Wales, I don't think it was a state. Like, we weren't a federated country at that point. This
Incredible.
was, still 12 years before federation. So, the iPhone certainly hadn't been invented in 1888.
But it looked like the right call early from Australia, even though maybe the first few overs were a little bit flat from the Aussies. They got things ticking, and they took 3 for 22. All the frontline fast bowlers got a wicket, Nisa, Starc and Boland. And it was another promising start from Ben Duckett, but he again snicked off, caught behind. Jacob Bethel played some good shots as well before Boland got him with a beauty. And that top order, again, it's promised a lot, just hasn't managed to deliver. But the Aussie bowlers, again, when they get it right, they're so hard to play.
Yeah, look at another promising start from Duckett, but I think the emphasis is on what you said there. Like, when Australia have been wayward, he's kind of gotten off to a quick start. I think that the same thing happened in that fourth innings in Melbourne. He scored quite quickly, and here he was off to 27 off 24 balls, mostly Starc. A couple of wide ones, a couple on his pads, and that got him going. But when Starc gets it right to him, he gets out. Like, it's just as simple as that. Alex Carey took a good catch. The numbers make an interesting reading. It's been 5 for 79 off 77 balls in this series. So
that's head-to-head,
That's head-to-head, yeah, Duckett to Starc, sorry. We know that McCullum is into that kind of stuff. It's like, well, go on, get a quick 30 and get the momentum going in our favour, and that can be good enough sometimes. That's, Crawley's made a career out of it. The ironic kind of thing, I think by the end of this series, Duckett, at the start of this series, Duckett was a guy I think we all thought, this guy's got some real potential. He's averaging over 40 as a test batsman. I know he plays on flat wickets, but that's still really good going against a new ball. Mm-hmm. And then Crawley is a guy that averaged 30. He's statistically the worst opener of all time. I think if you put the minimum filter at 2,000 or 3,000 test runs. Crawley's the one now who, I know he only got 16 today, but he just looks like he's got a real solid method for batting in Australia. He's much more watchful against new ball than what he was at the start of the series. And he got a really good ball today. So it's just an interesting contrast between the two openers.
And it's hard to judge Crawley on the Perth test because he didn't make it past the first over twice, did he? So how much can you really judge from that test match for him?
Well, I reckon a bit, actually, because he tried to bat in that first test in Perth like he does in England. Like anything, that knee-height kind of length. Think about the first ball that Cummins bowled to him in the 23 Ashes. It was a bit of a loosener from Cummins, but it also wasn't the worst ball in the world, and he's just pumped it through cover for 4. He has made a living off doing that in England. Well, you just can't do that in Australia, especially on these wickets. There's always been the extra bounce, but there's also that extra seam movement in Australia now. So he looked like he's actually took some really good lessons from that Perth test and going, okay, well, I can't drive on the up. I can't play the way I normally do. I've got to use my talent slightly differently, and he's waited to get in before he's kind of done that. Didn't work out for him today, but just an interesting point with those two, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with those two going forward.
Yeah, and Crawley, he's the one that his average always gets brought into the conversation. He has been England's leading run scorer in this series, and he still is averaging only in the mid-30s, so it's hard to sort of wrap your head around, but he's an enigma, that's for sure. I've just got a message through as well, Lou. Today's crowd of 53,001, it's been upgraded to, is now the largest SCG crowd since 1975 when Australia played the West Indies.
Did 4,000 more people come in the 9 minutes since we started recording this podcast? How did that happen?
Yeah, so that's the official word from Cricket Australia. Maybe a few came in late after lunch today. Ben Duckett, I want to just read through his scores this series. It's been a pretty torrid series for him so far. He's averaging 17.8 in Perth. He got 21.28, Brisbane 0.15, Adelaide 29.4, Melbourne 2.34, and today 27. So he hasn't actually passed 35 for the entire series.
Yeah, and like a different one compared to, say, Harry Brook, who we're going to talk about in a minute. He was up here at doing the press conference talking about what a frustrating series it's been for him, because he has done much better than that in terms of, I think he's been out 5 times between 32 and 51, kind of in that range, and he would have been out again in that range when he kind of skyhooked that one that landed between 3 fielders. But yeah, they were probably the 2 big variables I thought coming into the series. We knew Root's an excellent player. We knew Stokes is an excellent player. I kind of thought that the series would hinge potentially on Crawley and on Duckett and Brook and how well they would go out here. Well, neither of them have had great series.
No. Joe Root and Harry Brook came together at the end or in the middle of that first session and then didn't really look troubled too much. As you sort of touched on, the short ball tactic maybe ruffled a few feathers with Brook and trying to, prevent himself from taking it on all the time, and he did speak about that and having to stay in his bubble a bit. But other than Joe Root's first ball where he played a pretty outlandish cover drive and cleanly missed it, he didn't look troubled at all. Their partnership of 154 is the largest for England this series, and they're both in the 70s, not out overnight. Both will have their eye on 100. It would be Brook's first in Australia, and it would be Root's second.
Yeah, and Root, you touched on the first ball that he faced. I mean, not only did he miss it trying to drive, again, I mean, it was pretty full and it just shifted away late, but I thought it was telling what he tried to do, so what he did after he missed the ball. He practiced an even more violent swing, as if like the problem was he didn't swing hard enough. It's like, for a player who's that good, you don't see the Australians cover driving in that manner in their first 15, 20, 30 balls, the way that some of these England guys do. Yes, if they get a half volley, they'll push it away, but they don't swing their absolute, swing their bum off trying to hit that ball. So I just thought that was interesting. It's hard to criticise him because you're right. Like beyond that point, he was fantastic and kept a really calm head through some madcap kind of Harry Brook stuff. The late cut, I think the Root played like that really, really well. He did end up cover driving really well. There were a couple of balls. There was one ball from green that couldn't have been wider than a fourth stump, maybe a third and 3.5 line ball. And he just dabbed it down to third man for four. And that when he's doing that, he's so hard to bowl to.
And with that little shot down to third man that you talk about, I often get frustrated when there's not a fielder on the rope protecting that boundary. But when Steve Smith eventually did put a fielder down there to stop him getting boundaries, he was still finding the rope. He was hitting it either side of Jake Wetherold, who was down there. So he's just that adept at it. And if the pitch and the conditions are right, where he can judge the bounce, well, it's such a profitable area for him.
Yeah, and I think that's probably been the frustrating part for England fans this series is they're watching one of the all-time greats, a guy who averages 50, more than 10,000 test runs, and just his judgment around that has been poor this series. Like he's got the conditions in his favour. First day batting wicket, pretty true bounce. Absolutely, you can go and you can play that shot once you're kind of in. But there's been some other times on some spicier wickets where it looks like that, like he still wants to score that way. Well, he's good enough to find other ways to score, and he has succeeded in conditions. He's gone to India and improved his play against spin, and he's put shots away for different parts of his career. And I think it'd be frustrating to kind of get to the end of the series and. Look, he might well end up with 200s, but one was a really good knock, but I think there were 5 or 6 others that weren't didn't give his team much, and he'll finish with 200s in Nash's series. I'm not sure how many English players have kind of done that over the last little bit in Australia. Yeah,
curiously, he hasn't actually passed 50 in any of the other innings other than that 100 and today. So a bit of a mixed results for Root in this series. That short ball tactic that they bumped Brook with, especially at first, and they did get it to Root, but it didn't prove as effective. He almost holed out early on, so Australia have put pretty much every fielder on the rope, except for maybe a gully and sort of a fly slip, hoping that he takes it on and skies it, and they were getting Cam Green to do a lot of that donkey work, and then even Starc was bowling some short stuff. But then when he came from the other end, he got onto a massive pull shot that went into the big scoreboard, sort of down near the Bill O'Reilly stand, I believe. And so when it comes off, I mean, he's got all the white ball shots. So you can see why he wants to take it on, but it does come with risk, doesn't it?
Yeah, and again, a failure to read the conditions. Like in England, your miss hits can go for 6 and you got short square boundaries. Well, we actually have really big square boundaries in this country, and the SCG is no exception. I remember the field when he was on 45, I think it was off green. There was a square leg kind of on the ring, a very square mid-wicket on the ring. Then you had a deep forward square, a deep backward square, and a deep fine leg. Great idea. Let's play a pull shot to a ball, about eye level height. He was really lucky to get away with it. And then they had the exact same field when he tried it from the other end, as you said. And there was I think the over, or a couple of balls before he hit that 6, kind of scooping over his left shoulder. There was one that fell short of Josh Inglis at fine leg. So
that's right.
Some real helter-skelter kind of stuff. I mean, even when they pitched it up to him at the start of his innings, I think it was twice in his first 8 balls that he French cut balls past the stumps off Scott Boland. So he could have been out 3 or 4 times, full balls, short balls. In and kind of around that, there was some good stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, they were. And when he middles it, I mean, it just looks incredible. Races to the boundary. It was a super quick outfield here today as well. I know there's been a lot of speculation on the length of the grass on the pitch, but the length of the grass on the outfield might have been a bit shorter than we're used to seeing as well, because the MCG was slow. Here it's lightning fast.
That's right, yeah. Just overall good batting conditions, and a spinner would have been handy at times, I think. But we'll have to wait and see how it cracks up. One of the other things I think with the non-selection of Murphy, and Webster is a tall guy, Green is a tall guy. If some cracks do start to open up, as Steve Smith hinted at the toss, he kind of expects them to. They certainly did in the Sheffield Shield game that he played in here in November. Having tall, fast bowlers who can hit those cracks will really help.
I found it interesting today when Starc took the wicket of Duckett after being put away for a few boundaries. No celebration whatsoever, just made it look very cool and calm, and as if he sort of didn't really rate the wicket potentially. But he's now got 27 for the series. He's on track for one of the best in recent times, certainly in terms of recent memory. But I found it interesting when he went down to fine leg, he got a big cheer from his home crowd after that wicket. When Scott Boland, a few overs later, got the wicket of Jacob Bethel, an even bigger roar for a Victorian here in New South Wales. So I did find that a bit curiously. Why would that be, do you think?
Maybe they know that Starc doesn't really love bowling at this ground. That might be the key thing there. I think it's 29 wickets by Pat Cummins in the 2019 Ashes. That's the best haul by an Australian bowler in an Ashes series since Johnson's 37 in 13-14. So what is he, only two away from equaling, 3 away from going past it. You add in what he's done with the ball. Yeah, we've spoken heaps. You add in what he's done with the bat. He's had a remarkable series. I think if he gets some runs in this test, it'll basically be the best all-round Ashes series since Warne's 40 wickets and around 200 runs in the 2005 Ashes series. Spectacular stuff from Mitchell Starc. I kind of think the lack of emotion around his wicket had to do with how he bowled in and around that. I think he gets really grumpy when he's not bowling as well as he knows he can. Looks like he was struggling with the foot marks a little bit and slipping and sliding. He had the big stomper out, I think, after 8 or 9 overs. So he just wasn't 100% happy with everything. And then he bowls a peach to get him out, and he's kind of like, oh, well, I should have done that 5 overs ago.
Imagine having such high standards.
Oh, yeah, exactly right.
All right, so that's day 1 done. We're going to start half an hour earlier tomorrow on day 2 at 10 a.m. local time. Plenty of overs to catch up on, so hopefully clear skies and plenty of play tomorrow, Lou. Let's finish with the BBL grid game. The competition's just rolling along at the minute. Melbourne Derby on tonight as well at the MCG, so big crowd expected there. My score today I was very happy with. Lots of purples and lots of blues. A rarity score of 15.9. Gets me on that leaderboard, but not quite at the top. My best score was a Perth Scorcher and a Melbourne Star, somebody who's played for both teams. Who would you go for if you had that?
I did. We were doing these. I was doing this in the rain delay next to you. I haven't finished mine, so I don't want you to give any spoilers on the ones I haven't done. But I've completed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. Did you say Scorchers and Stars?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did do that one. I was really disappointed. I went Hamish McKenzie. I thought that was pretty rare.
The left arm
arm wrist spinner. That's right. What are you thinking? Like maybe point. Like 2%, 3%, maybe even lower, maybe believe 4%.
A lot of Hamish McKenzie fans.
Yeah, exactly. My best one was, I'm interested to hear your answer for that one. My best one was Ben Edmondson, 0.9%. I thought that was, that's a very good score. And I turned around and I asked you if you'd done that square. You said you had. You said you'd also done Ben Edmondson. So
crazy. So yes, you can pick your Hamish McKenzies if you want, but if you want to play the BBL grid game, Lou, people should go to
the Big Bash app.
Yes, they should. Catch everyone tomorrow on the Unplayable Podcast.